Hi, I'm Wendell G. Welcome back to the Worldtopia Baseball League Tour de South. We'll start at the top at Buffalo. Now has extended its lead to 10 games over Cairo and False Bay. Wow. This is a surge that I sure didn't expect to see. And we've got some good series coming up. You see on the bottom left, we got a good Buffalo-Cairo series coming up on TV tonight, so be sure and tune that in. What drives this Buffalo team? Well, you look down here, and it's offense. Offense is driving this team. It's a lot of on base, a lot of batting average, a very league-leading 295 batting average. They are scoring 749 runs this season. I started to say per game. That wouldn't be right, would it? And they're also leading the league in runs against. So their defense is tops as well as the starters' ERA. Bullpen ERA is top tier. Defensive efficiency not quite at the top. And team speed, stolen bases. Stolen bases not their thing. Home runs also not their team. They're sort of middle of the pack in terms of the long ball. So they get it done by getting people on base and then driving them in. And their starting pitching rotation is having a tops in the league performance this year. And that rotation is led by Fontenot, Robles, Driscoll, Chavez, and Barrett. Chavez is out, should be back in a few weeks in time for the playoffs. So maybe he'll have enough time to knock the rust off before the playoffs start. Superlative outfielder Linus and Lucy Enquist leads the charge in the offense. He is hitting .379 this year with 11 homers and 82 RBI. Look at the double-digit RBI up and down this ball club. When the guys in front of you are getting on base, this kind of thing happens. Look at that. The minimum RBI here, 45 by Garner out in right field, who is at the bottom of the lineup. A .275 at the bottom of the lineup? Are you kidding me? There's not a weak bat here. Who are you going to pitch around? You're going to pitch around Bly? Congrats, you get to face Long. You're going to pitch it around Bly and Long? Well, here's Chekhov. Here's Garner. So these guys might not destroy you with the long ball, but they're just going to tick and tack and drive you nuts. And that's how Buffalo's offense works. They just kind of keep ticking and tacking and driving you nuts until they get to you. Conversely, their pitchers are fully capable of going the distance and shutting down the opposing team. Let's see. So that was so there's no big secret here. They've got great pitching. They got some great guys in the starting rotation, and basically just built around an offense that just ticks and tacks. Cairo in a tense duel with False Bay for home field in the Lambship is led by Amar, whom they traded for earlier this year, and longtime Tut Ping, Manuel Marroquin, outstanding shortstop, one of the finest shortstops in the big leagues. Amar is a first baseman, basically a DH kind of a guy. He's hitting .343. Ping is hitting .318 at the top of the lineup. His defense is sensational, and his bat helps the team as well. Scott Bell, a catcher, is tied with the team league in home runs, third in the league in the team in batting average. And these guys just they do everything well. They're a lot like Helsingborg. They're not really tops in any one category, but they're second in offense, third in defense, third and fourth in pitching. So it's a well-balanced team. They got a lot of important pieces that get the job done. In Buffalo, let's go back to our 100-game analogy. 7.4 runs per game scored, 5 runs per game allowed. So about a 2.5 run margin per game. What would that be times 0.7? 2.5? I don't even know, man. A lot. How about 2.25, something like that? So at least a 2-run differential. Much like Amsterdam, they have themselves out in the couple of sigma standard deviation where they've got a lot of slop every game. They can always make up runs, and they can always they can make it up on the field and at the plate. Cairo, on the other hand, 722 runs scored, 566 runs against. Another very strong team. Again, very much like Helsingborg, very strong on both sides, both the defensive side and the offensive side. Very strong on the mound. And Keyworth, Old Silky, still getting it done for a team that's been known for its rotation. It's great rotations through the years. Reptile Tang, Woolly. False Bay has fallen a little bit off their high perch from last year, but they are still led by the consensus best pitcher in baseball, Mustafa Kasib, rocking a 2.00 ERA this year and an 18-6 record. Incredible. Last Resort Campbell, listed as number 5 in the rotation, a young kid, 16 wins already this year, 3.54 ERA. And this is supposed to be his year of growing pains? Really? Okay. Boys Keene, also in the rotation, Sandoval, Antonison. Those guys are just getting it done. You can see that the starting rotation for False Bay is second in the league in ERA. Their bullpen is tops. Roy Rapley is one of the go-to guys out of the pen. He's rocking that enormous contract, which I think ends this year. So be curious to see what happens to him in free agency if he goes. The False Bay offense is a tick below the Cairo offense, which itself is a tick below the Buffalo offense. So False Bay is being led by its defense and pitching, by its defense and runs scored against. One of the opportunities this offseason for False Bay is to improve its defensive efficiency. You can see they're 6th in the league in defensive efficiency, so they'll be looking to shore up a few key defensive liabilities they have, while maintaining and perhaps improving the bats. Neil Onions is 2nd in the league in batting average. Holden Rankin, old free agent, old ancient Holden. How old is that guy? About 39 by now. 3rd in the team in batting average. Javier Villarreal is leading the team in batting average from his shortstop position. So this team is sort of a combination of there's old Niñor, Spider Eyes Niñor down at the bottom. This team is kind of loosely assembled group. Some of them have been traded for, bought and sold. Some of them are homegrown talent, and they've had a good season to reprise their division championship last year, they've just had competition rising up around them this year. 4th place, Kabul, the Tourist, the Bulls, Tehran Tourist, the Bulls. They took a tough blow early in the season when free agent signee Nobuhito Haida went out with a bad arm injury. He's missed the entire season. They also had the injury to Ben Tamir. However, Amir Leduc, their closer, has 31 saves this season. He's getting it done in the bullpen, leading a bullpen that is unfortunately 7th in the division, 7th in the league, rather. So Kabul, what powers this engine? Well, it's obviously not defense. 715 runs against versus 647 runs scored. This tells you they should be an under 500 team. They're actually very darn close, and it's probably because Leduc keeps them above water sometimes, along with Chavez, Longhair Gives, and Ruiz, who are leading the team in batting average. Ruiz has 43 dingers and 110 ribbies on the year. He's the heart and soul of this team, and along with Neanderthal, those guys batting number 3 and 4, and power in this offense, which is 3rd in the division, 3rd in the league, and they are tops in the long ball. So Kabul has a team built for the fences, and they're really good at getting on base, and exploiting their opportunities, driving in runs. It's the defense at Kabul that is suspect. So that's where they'll be doing some work, and I presume they'll be doing some work in the offseason in their rotation. They do have some pitching prospects, hopefully perhaps ready to come up, and we'll see where Kabul ends up next year. But that's their challenge. Key West, 70 and 73, very close to 500 this year, which in itself is a shock. I thought they'd be much lower than that. Reginaldo Filidi leads the team in ERA from his number 2 slot. Bailey Challen, a trade target earlier this season, is surprisingly the Key West ace, and he's done a fine job in the rotation. In fact, this pitching and defense is better than Kabul's, but the offense is not as good. It's a middle of the pack offense and defense. So I think the challenge for Key West this offseason is to find one thing to focus on building. You can't go after everything, right? You gotta find something and put a few pieces in place and improve like one thing at a time, maybe. We only got so much budget, and you can't buy everything all at once. So I'm curious to see where Key West goes next year. Guksta has talked about tanking immediately. I don't know. I have a hard time seeing that. These guys like to compete, so we all do. All right, so that's Key West. Australia took a little bit of a dive this year. Surprisingly, their defense. To me, the surprising statistic here is that their defense is tops in the league, and the starting ERA is 3rd in the league, but the offense has been pretty much non-existent this season. They have had a couple of journeyman pitchers who have performed well for them. Dr. Sad, Jersedvada, Pescara, did I say that right? Gerardo Infante, and Junk Stick Kim, the other Junk Stick, Big Stick, led the rotation. And Infante and Kim have both been traded, and Pescara, Dr. Sad, remains. Actually, Kim, wait a minute. Kim's still here? I thought he was traded. Paco Duran, subject to much trade rumor last year, is still on the team. And Bob Nichols, journeyman pitcher. This guy, Bob Nichols, rocking a 2.90 ERA. He excelled and exceeded estimates in Key West last year too. He's a pretty fantastic guy. Bob Nichols, look at this guy. You wouldn't think he'd be much, but look what he did last year. A 3.31 ERA, 1.34 WHIP at Key West. This year, it was forever before anybody signed him, but Australia finally did. 2.90 ERA and 1.19 WHIP. This guy just flat gets it done, man. So, looks like he was, this is his second visit to Australia. He was in Australia in 2042. We had a 1.57 ERA and a 0.87 WHIP. Good night. This guy, man, is he super smart? Bob Nichols. He's 38 years old. Intelligence is low. Work ethic, I don't know, but this guy just goes to work. He's one of my secret favorite players in the WBL. Bob Nichols, the working man's friend. Let's see. So bullpen is mid-division. And the defense, 4th in runs against, 586 runs against. I guess the offense is where Australia probably will be focusing this offseason. Well, I say that, and a big part of that rotation is gone now. Infante is gone. So, yeah, where do you start? I don't know, man. But I'm guessing Australia will start with hitting. This team does not have among players who have the minimum number of plate appearances, the leading is Rita with a 279 batting average, and free agent Bradnock, Music Bradnock, had a 269 average. Andy Durach, 253 average. Looking down the lineup, it looks like Roberto Canales, shortstop, has a 360 batting average. Where'd that guy come from? Looks like he was promoted from, he started 38 games. This guy is overachieving too, man. Look at that. He's hitting 360 with a 444 on base percent. This guy's living a charmed, he's a leprechaun. He's living a charmed life. Good for him. Looks like he's got a great defense at third base. Maybe not shortstop, but getting his chance. That's outstanding. What else here? They've had a couple of long-term injuries. Nesson Farron was traded back in this past off-season, just before the spring training from Helsingborg. And Farron never really had time to find his stroke before he went down with injury. Played in 55 games, 200 plate appearances, but only hit 169, man. A big disappointment for Australia this year. Big disappointment. Pepe Lara, great contact hitter. He was only hitting 245 in the few games he appeared in before he got hurt, partially torn labrum. The Comet. I guess we got two Comets, Comet Lara and Comet Finley. Well, that's Australia. Australia has always been a very curious team to me. They have seemed, last year they always seemed competitive, strong rotation, and yet they were at the same time competitive and uncompetitive. And I don't know, they've been a difficult team for me to figure out. I never have found, it seems sort of like ad hoc or sort of random whether they're competing or not. So I never have really found out what they're what they're centered around. They picked up Andy Darach for a second rounder last year. I remember that well because I really would have liked to have Darach. A little bit too late on the draw with it. Paco Duran was sort of dangled as a possible trade item, and certainly this 24-year-old would be welcome on any staff. Look at that, man. This guy's got great stuff. But it would take a big offer to move him away from Australia. In fact, probably an insanely big offer. But Australia does need batting. Key West, Gugsta, I was a competitor of Gugsta back in the WBL days when he was at Louisville. And I really enjoy, Gugsta as a competitor. And I like the strategies. I like watching his unspoken strategies unfold as we play against each other. So I really miss playing against Gugsta. We had good times back in the UBL. Back in the Big Easy, the East-Southeast. Yeah. Okay, so down on to Buenos. Buenos, surprisingly, in the tank this year, just having one of those seasons. Led by Joselito Garce Cabfair, old Cabfair. Great contact, one of the most outstanding contact hitters in the league. Having a kind of a down year, only hitting 301 this year. And Bert Lynham. Bert, oh man. If you got Bert, you got to have Ernie playing second base. That's all I got to say, man. So I'm a big fanboy of Bert Lynham. Huge fanboy of Bert Lynham. I think he's one of my top wish list items. You know how when you were a kid, you would take the Sears wish book, the Christmas catalog, you would take it, to the outhouse and spend many a winter moment in that cold outhouse going over the. Maybe that was me. Maybe that was my parents. I don't know, man. But I'm just here to tell you that Lynham is the guy that I dream about at Christmas time. Wish he was on my team. So what do we got here? Looks like Buenos. Osick is a man after Radford's heart here. Stolen bases, leading the South League first in stolen bases. Doing anything to get this offense moving. But it's a pretty lethargic offense. 554 runs scored compared to 631 runs against. So you're scoring 5.5 runs a game, but you're giving up 6.3 runs a game. It's not a good way to win a lot of games. Looks like the hitting is remarkably untimely, though, because they're 24 games under 500. Quite a bit less than you would think, given the fact that they do score some runs. So, and they are trying to make things happen. They're sixth in the league in home runs, This is not a long ball team. 5th in batting average. Over on the defensive side, they are 2nd in defensive efficiency. So they have some guys who can play the defense. However, the starting pitching, 5th in rotation ERA and 6th in bullpen ERA. This to me makes me think that there's a really good defense on the field, but the pitchers just aren't getting it done. So I'm a big fan of Fernando Soto. Would love to have him on my team. Joel Millen is long gone, as well as Artek. Artek is also gone. They were leading the team in wins. I think Buenos needs to put another couple of guys up there with Fernando caliber, they've got a couple of guys who are out: Harun Al-Rashid Benajar and Al Taftani. So Eggman, Nitro. I just call him Eggman, man. Dawood is the closer, 17 saves. He was a free agent this season. And he was out there in free agency for a while. I even had an offer for him, but he eventually took Buenos' Good Airs offer. And he's had 17 saves this season, sort of an up and down year for him. Not the most outstanding year in his resume, but, he's been fine. Fernando, love this guy, man. Absolutely love Fernando Soto. 22 years old. Man, was even trying to think of a way to get him from Amsterdam, but I like this guy a lot. He doesn't have overwhelming stuff. He'll keep his fielders busy behind him, but I like this guy. I just like him. Great movement, good control. So where do you start if you're Buenos? I don't even know, man. You gotta get a pitcher, and you gotta get some way to start getting on base and scoring some runs. So I don't know. Pick one. You got plenty of possibilities. I don't know what Buenos' minor league system looks like, so let's take a look at it here. He's got a few guys in the minor league system. There's an older guy, Hands. He's kind of old. There's a little bit of depth here in the minor leagues. I guess if you're Buenos, you start, if you got it in the minors, you go ahead and pull it up and start giving it reps to get them, get these guys their reps, bring them in, let them do their thing. Maybe it's time for Sanchez to come over. What? Oh, no, I was thinking of somebody else. I was thinking of, oh God, who was I thinking about? I don't know. The other Danny. So yeah, that's Buenos. Tough year for Buenos. Baton, the Red Stick, having worst year in WBL history. Not much to talk about here. Not much to talk about. I think Baton Rouge has played us like even Steven. I think we played them 2 games, something like that. Yeah, they're pretty much last in everything. Buenos only has 100 home runs this year. They've given up 869 runs. They've scored 482. This is Tank City right here. This is Titanic City. Any bright spots? Man, I don't see none. When a guy with 14 home runs leads the league in home runs, it's rough. Not a whole lot down in the farm system. So I guess the challenge here with Baton Rouge is just to keep stocking the farm. Every time there's an opportunity, every time some guy breaks through and begins to achieve or overachieve, see if you can move him for the future of the club, of the franchise. So I guess that's what you got to do, man, and keep going for those 1-1 draft picks. Maybe even take those 1-1 draft picks and start trading them for for depth in the farm system. I don't know, but there's a lot of opportunities everywhere you look here, and good fun season down in the South. I've been enjoying watching my neighbors chit-chat their way through the season. Key West had they rocked to the top of the charts, near the top early on, and that was fun to see. Always good to see and interesting to see how Australia is doing. Surprising and disappointing to see Buenos tank down through the standings, but not tank, but dive down through the standings. And also very interesting to see Buffalo pop up as fast as they did, despite all the moves that Cairo and False Bay made in the off season and in the early season. That was really fun. I mean, it's really good to see guys working hard to make moves to make their team better. That's what the WBL is all about. Well, all right, we're gonna leave you with expanded standings. Who is hotter than hot and who is notter than not? Look at Amsterdam on the knots, 6 under their Pythag record. They should be approaching 100 wins this season. Buffalo also under Pythag. Key West far over their Pythagorean expectation, and that's right on the feet of the GM. Gugsta always has ways of coaxing a little bit extra out of his guys. Man, I remember down in the UBL, that magical year for Louisville, man, I looked at his Pythag and he was like plus 10 or something. I was like, damn, how's this guy doing it, man? And he's always got ways to eke out a run here and there, a win here and there, and make things happen. Old Dublin was positive against the Pythag this year, perhaps because there are a bunch of running fools up there. They always have the green light. They're still home, man. Speaking of which, did you guys know we had a couple of triple plays this year? We had 2 of them. And I wish I could take you right to them, but that'll be your homework. Go find the triple plays. All right, well, I'll see you again with more from the Worldtopia. Another day, another way.